Okay, it is 5:04 p.m. Joyce, you want to call the meeting to order?
What do I need to say?
Just say call this meeting of
Call this meeting to order.
the Ridgway Sustainability
That's
Advisory.
the Ridgway Sustainability Advisory Board.
Okay. And this is February 7th, 2024. So on the agenda today, our first item is to review. Let me just double check and make sure that Dana's not. Oh, actually, let's do a roll call. Angela.
Here.
Joyce.
Here.
JT.
Here.
And also present is Terry Schuyler. Dana is expected to join us on Zoom. Dave will not be here and Ken will not be here. Our first item on the agenda is the review of the draft request for proposal for master plan for Green Street Park. So I hope you all got a chance to look at that. I did get a response from Dave that he's got a thumbs up for the draft, the way Preston put it together. So I do have that up on the screen here. Angela, can you see the screen and everything okay?
No, I can't. I'm calling in because I have poor reception.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
But I did read it, and I thumbs up for me. I thought it's great.
Okay. Any discussion, any comments? I personally thought Preston did a great job putting this together and kind of hitting all the points that needed to be hit. The process will be as all RFPs are. It'll go out, RFP will go out and the dates and everything are on this somewhere down here. So we'll get this tomorrow.
I have one small change to suggest,
Okay.
and it's under item number 4. No,
Oh, hang on a second.
Yep.
Item number 4?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Right at the end of the last sentence, under item number 4, the following park amenities and uses could be considered for conceptual development.
Yep.
I think it should say, but are not limited to, could be
And
considered.
I can be ready to go anytime you guys are up there.
I will give that suggestion to Preston tomorrow. That's item number 4.
Yeah.
And the last sentence.
Last sentence of the first paragraph.
Okay, first paragraph, not limited to.
Yeah, so the following park amenities and uses could be considered, but not limited to. For conceptual, so that it keeps it more open.
Okay.
This is other ideas.
On to Aspen.
The other thing I would add in also, or suggest on item number 4 is where it says landscaping that promotes water conservation. Actually, I would be very specific and add xeriscaping.
Or native landscaping.
Specifically xeri,
So-
because that is fundamentally.
Right.
Okay, and I
xeri,
will
not
give,
zero.
I will give him, let's see, it's the landscaping. Okay, so when we go into an RFP, it's giving the generalizations. When we go into actually talking with the company that has been awarded the bid or the project, we do go into more details of what that would consist of. I'll give these recommendations or these ideas to Preston and he can decide if he wants to include them or just have that part of the actual one-on-ones when the stakeholders meet.
Right, and I was gonna bring that up was that it looks like the final consultant selection is gonna be made on March 13th, and then there's a kickoff meeting, schedule confirmation on March 20th. And so as part of this scope, once the consultant's selected, they're going to be meeting with the different town entities, and we will be one of the groups that they meet. And so what I'm hoping that we can do is as a team, so possibly in our March meeting, I'm not sure when they'll meet with us, but we would want to essentially take a look at that list on there and anything in there that we may want to add or provide additional comments on and say, well, the things that we're really passionate about is we want to see solar garden microgrids. We would want the landscaping for waterscaping. We'd really like you to consider xeriscape. And that, X, Y, and Z is important to us. Those are what we're gonna want to present as a group.
And this,
But we-
sorry, this is in a meeting before the first public meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
so what happens, I'm sorry, Joyce,
Yeah.
go ahead.
so essentially, Deb and I are on the same page, which is great, but essentially they'll meet with us and talk about what's important to us to integrate it into that first conceptual drawing. And then the conceptual drawings will get presented to the public. But we're going to be kind of competing with all these other entities on what they want. So I think, it'd be smart for us to pull out what
Did
are
you show her how to get in? I don't know if she knows that.
what are
Oh,
the
she does.
top 5 things that are on this list that are really important to us. that we
Angela, could you
It's a little different.
My friend.
Well,
Angela, could you mute, please? Thank you.
So I think that will be important because that's kind of how we're gonna get our voice heard and make sure that what is really valuable to us gets integrated into the first drafts of the conceptual plan. And then I think that's where we'll kind of, once they have draft conceptual plans, then our path forward is like, how do we listen to what the public wants and provide enough.
I'm gonna need the address. up
Hey,
here.
Angela,
Angela,
can you please mute?
Yeah, I've got it. 6:24.
Am I muted?
feedback for her.
No, we're just hearing all your noise over there.
I'm sorry. It says *6 to mute, right? Am I muted now?
No?
No,
The heck?
can you mute her for her?
I don't know. Let's see here.
Yeah, no, that was my
Yeah.
understanding too, as well. I don't know, did you see some of the stuff I sent with the?
I did, and so that's what I was thinking was that if we can meet, ideally before we meet with the consultant, that we could take some of your renderings to kind of show to kind of the design consultant, say, hey, we have these renderings, here's a conceptual plan. We know that, maybe X, Y, and Z needs to change or get modified to make the public happy, but I think that's really gonna be the best time to bring that in.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, is that to all of the potential candidates? Or the one that's selected?
So this one is the big RFP that's gets posted to everyone. And so anyone that's interested in putting in for this will do that. But once the consultant's selected, that's when we
Okay,
get
that's what I
to,
was trying to clear up.
yeah, and that's not happening until March. So we'll have to look at when, so ideally, I think the dates that Deb posted for when we could meet in March, because she's gonna be gone.
Maybe the 18th
Yeah.
is the,
But ideally, maybe the kickoff meeting, we'll have to ask Preston, will be with town general and they would meet with us.
so the
Yeah.
kickoff meeting, schedule confirmation. So these are, these are not, I can talk to him, but these aren't necessarily written in stone.
Yeah,
I think that usually the first kickoff meeting is done with the town staff.
yeah, and
And
it's a-
then the next meetings will go with, and it'll probably be the SAB first, the garden, the apiary, and then I'm not really sure who else.
so we'll be able to meet on the 18th, and I think on the 18th, that's when we'll probably need to formulate a plan of what do we want to tell the consultant, so when they meet with us, we're not
So we don't typically put that,
Flushing
all
out all
of
the-
that stuff into the RFP. That's not something that goes in RFP. It's a generalization.
Sure, and I guess
Yeah.
that, I was just trying to make sure I understood the timeline
Yeah.
and who saw what when.
Mhm.
I get it now, and then the other thing is, should we, for that, when we do have the consultant selected, should we not just present to them, or should we not just have a conversation with them? Should we actually put together a punch list of all the things that
When they meet with the SAB, yes,
So physically,
but
should we
not,
produce-
not at selection.
Should we produce a document?
Yeah, so I think that at our next SAB meeting, what would be smart is for all of us to get together and like, cause everyone's gonna come in with different ideas or maybe like what they wanna see. So let's, for when we're talking about this, flush it all out, right? And then narrow down, like, this is what's important to the whole group. And then that way, yeah, when we talk with them, we can either present a list or we can present the renderings from Terry. And then take that and say, well, you know, we talked as a team and these items are the most important to us.
And I guess where I was leading with that is wondering if, rather than using a meeting time to do that, if we could start aggregating all of those things that all the different members want into a document online.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dana, I am thinking Google Drive. Um,
Yeah.
well, she's not here, right?
Oh, right.
No, but I
But
just
she
wanted to
hates
say,
Google
right,
Drive.
she hates Google.
Oh.
So she won't. But anyway, I was thinking that we might be able to get a little farther. We've already discussed a lot of those and bandied them around, but it might be worth quantifying and qualifying those things
Totally.
so that we don't
Yeah.
spend our time doing that. So
And
maybe
you don't
we
want to
can
do it
that.
live in front of them.
No,
No.
Right, but
Like,
that's
hey,
why we'll,
bouncy house.
yeah. So like, that's why, I mean, I think what JT is saying is like, we can compile all these things now and then at our 18th meeting, that's just our internal meeting. We like flush out all those ideas and then whatever, when the 22nd or say, when they meet with us, we'll be like,
Be able to present that. Give them
yeah,
as a
we're gonna
document.
look
Take-
organized instead of a hot mess where we're arguing around each other of like, wait, no, this is what I want. No, this is, you know?
I have no idea what you're thinking.
I'm gonna unmute,
That's, yeah.
hang on one second. I just want her to,
She's trying to get her hand up.
I don't know, I'm trying to, I'm not seeing her hand up. I thought I had muted her, but I think she might have muted herself. I just want to make sure she can hear this conversation and that she has the ability to chime in, but I'm not getting any response here.
Like she's muted.
Yeah.
What's that?
Looks like she's muted if you look at the little red icon by her phone number.
So
Yeah.
Angela's the only one on line
Angela's the
right
only
now.
one, yeah. Yeah, so I'm hoping that she can unmute herself. Yeah. So, Terry, you had comments as well?
Yeah, could you go back to the calendar for a moment, the schedule? I want to reference that, but as it relates to the ongoing microgrid grant
Oh, yeah.
that stimulated all this.
Mhm.
And I think I sent that, and hopefully you got that, the recent filings.
Mhm.
And the reason I put those in front of you guys is the bigger picture for this is it's a microgrid, and I was willing to walk through that a little bit here today with this group.
Mhm.
The full microgrid grant, which by the way, I have to have wrapped up before this process concludes. So the funding I have for that grant, I have to have all the financial pro formas done by March 31st, and that's, you know, this process is gonna be ongoing, so I'm gonna have to assume that the size of the solar system I put in Green Street is the size it's gonna remain for purposes of the grant. That's not to say it's in stone, because
Yeah.
we haven't put out an RFP for it, we didn't build it, but I have to kind of lock things in because I have a schedule that the grant funding requires.
Yeah.
The greater context of this full microgrid is that it's gonna include a megawatt on Dana's property.
Mhm.
It's gonna include, you know, based on the ask of the town to use town property for some portion, and then some portion of it's gonna be on the SMPA yard where the battery's gonna be sited. So that's the bigger context for the whole thing,
Mhm.
that many that we've already done called road, but outreach to don't have that context. They've never seen that. They don't understand that it's part of a bigger thing. They just think of it as solar on Green Street Park. So
Mhm.
whether it's when we meet with the contractor or maybe both, when we meet with the existing stakeholders that are already leasing property, which are the community garden and the apiary, I want to present that larger context so they understand that this isn't an isolated thing. This is part of a bigger thing. so that they can then use that filter when they're thinking about their questions and their concerns about all the minutia of the details.
Right,
Um,
so the one thing you need to lock in is roughly like size / power generation, right?
Which is what I have in those drawings.
Right, okay,
So
Okay.
unless it gets modified before the time frame of the deliverables in the grant, I have to use that to go forward. And what the grant deliverables require is that I do the financial analysis for the whole thing, and then that informs with the potential grant buy down from other grant sources, construction grant or federal and state, what the net cost to SMPA would be to go build this. And that then forces them to decide if they want to finance it and build it, and will the resulting costs be such that they don't have to rate base the overage to people in Natarita paying for
Right.
Ridgway's microgrid. So that's their concern. I lost my train of thought on that. So the drawings themselves that I have, and I'd be happy to punch through that little interactive thing if you didn't get a chance to look at it, were designed to, in my mind, designed to be minimal, meaning that I didn't want to put everything in there, so there's room for others to make suggestions, to generate buy-in, to have ownership in the final solution. In other words, I built the horse, the camel will result.
Yeah.
That's my little phrase.
yeah,
But nonetheless, I think, one, we need to present that certainly to the winning contractor and the bigger context, so they know that, you know, this is part of this resulted, the reason for the Green Street Park master plan rewrite came as a result of, you know, this bigger grant process for a larger microgrid for the town, so they understand in the context of it. The same with these individual stakeholders. And at some point, I think that bigger context and those iterations should be presented to the greater public, the rest of the stakeholders. And I think it does make sense to bring in the community garden, the apiary first, because they're existing leaseholders on that property. So they should have their own private audience with this process, and before it's opened up to the school and the other committees and the HOAs and all that. But it has to be done orderly enough to where things don't get leaked out, because what I've mentioned in one of the emails is if there becomes I call it a leak, and that's not the right word, but if there becomes negativity that's associated with the Green Street Park, it could easily affect the special use permit process for the property on Dana's. If the public starts to create this wave of negativity, it's going to poison the bigger project. And so that's my fear of everybody going out and starting to solicit individual stakeholder input, is that we need to do it very systematically, very orderly, and very uniformly. That's my suggestion on.
right, and I don't think, and Deb could probably comment on this, I don't think we as the board have the ability to talk about what order they do that. I think we as the board would have the ability to, we're certainly gonna support for the max size and how much electricity we generate, but I think ultimately that would be Preston's decision on what the order goes, but we could ask for maybe for them to meet with all of us, and then for maybe another meeting where we, the apiary and the community garden get to see the conceptual renderings prior to the public, possibly. I don't know, that's.
Well, where my concern came from was out of observing the athletic park process.
Yeah.
I sat here in that first public meeting. I was stunned that they put the solar in that first drawing, because that had been part of a discussion, a year-long ongoing discussion. But that was presented to the public, unbeknownst to me, took me blindsided with no context. The fact that it was part of a larger microgrid, and this was a process that had been discussed for over a year. So it wasn't presented in full context to the public, and as a result, it got narrowly focused on and torpedoed. And I want to prevent that scenario from happening.
My thought here on this right off the bat is next week at council, for our committee report for SAB, you and I probably could tag team on this to all of our cohorts. Remind them what happened and how that got derailed, and encourage council collectively, all of us, to figure out the best method with Preston and John, how to move forward through this public process.
And actually,
Because it is
that's
run by the town.
that's really a staff thing. It's not really a council thing. Preston, being the town manager, manages all of that type of transaction or any RFPs, anything that is projects that are for the towns. It's not really
But I think it's
That's-
important
they-
along these lines for individual council members not to go out individually leak stuff and
Right.
have their own.
But what I'm saying is that ultimately the president's gonna be the one who's gonna say this is how this process will work. And it's typically the same process for all RFPs.
Sure.
But
I
as far as
think-
word wise goes,
I think it would benefit us to say that on the record.
sure,
As a committee report,
sure,
on behalf of
You
SAB,
need
to say that these are our concerns.
sure.
And we can ask Preston, because it would be his decision on whether he would approve that or not. But we can request, like, would we have the ability to see the conceptual drawings and provide comments on them prior to release to the public?
Mhm.
That's his decision on if he'll grant that, but we can ask for it, and if that would probably be helpful, so that way, when you see them at a public meeting, you're not caught off guard. You can either go in knowing what's gonna be presented, or if there's big red flags on your end, because SMPA is a, investor of this.
So-
They,
so
Actually,
you know,
I
maybe I'll
don't think
give-
I don't think that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna say no.
So part of the reason I'm bringing,
So I
part of the reason I'm
think
bringing
that's
that
a
up.
reasonable request.
Tom, I'm in a meeting, I'll have to call you back. The reason I'm bringing that up is I'm reading Dave's email where he's already getting micromanaging various aspects of this. We should have a gazebo, so we should do this. As a result of talking to various people. I also got a separate email from Angela, through somebody saying, why aren't we putting a solar carport there? And then I got emails from John Clark, who's also the saying, well, I think your drawings ought to include, the mountainscape in the background, and there should be more trees. It's like, so already.
It's already out
It's already spreading out and getting with
You're right.
all of this very narrowly
Right.
directed feedback, all of which is good feedback, but it doesn't have the greater context of anything yet. So that's my fear is
Right.
this the horse is out of the gates and it's running away and it'll never turn into a camel because it'll get run over by a car. So
Right.
That's my big fear.
Right, but I think that's why it's really important for us to have a meeting prior to meeting the consultant, because, Angela has ideas, Dana has ideas, like everyone.
You get the
within-
SABs in
Yeah,
first.
so we just need to make sure, like, we know what we can agree on as a whole. And so the consultant's time with us is efficient, and it's not us hashing out ideas and him leaving, being like, I don't actually know what you guys want.
So
No, a very clear,
Yeah.
very clear laundry list. It's not
Yeah.
that hard for us to do.
Yeah.
So
very
two other
good on
quick
this.
points is, I paid for that fancy rendering thing
Mm-hmm.
out of the microgrid grant, which has limited funds in it. John was suggesting already that I change the drawings to include his suggestions. Dave would have me change it to include his suggestions. I may have limited funds to make too many overlays before my time runs out in the grant money.
Yeah,
And one of the things I want to investigate is, can I get the contractor, the subcontractor of the contractor I'm working on to either contract to the winning contractor to provide the physical file for those drawings, or possibly be contracted by this contractor to continue those drawings. I'm gonna see about getting access, so we don't have to recreate the wheel and spend money again.
So you're saying getting the drawings, to whoever gets awarded.
Whoever gets
Okay.
awarded our contracts.
Yeah.
So let me just make
And
that-
so that you're not having the middle person to go through this whole.
To read.
or they don't have to start again,
Yeah.
if they already have
Well,
a,
I don't
I've already
think you're
spent
gonna have a
$10,000
problem with that either.
generating-
As long as they get the
Yeah.
information, that makes more sense than.
Right,
going
yeah,
to
well, let me
you
be
than
really
having
clear.
to do it.
Let's assume I spent $10,000 already
Right.
generating those drawings.
Mhm.
You only have $25,000
Yeah.
budget for the whole master plan. You don't want to spend another 10,000.
Right.
From scratch. So I want to see if I can leverage that into the process.
So
I-
do you, as you know, as a consultant, not as SMPA per se, to offer that set of documents in kind?
I can
through this
offer
process?
in its current form, but
Yeah.
if they want to be used for the new contractor to make modifications.
yeah.
Then I need to get access to the actual.
And that's what I'm
I'm
getting at,
sure
is
that,
SMPA, that,
SCPA
they
is the
paid
one
for
that, owns.
so essentially it would be file sharing, right? And so they would offer to provide the actual, like, drawing rendering.
Or offer to use the same contractor to do the work, just to finish.
Yeah,
do it.
and that's tough because consultant selected will likely not want to subcontract. But I'm guessing that they would be willing to take the rendering that you have and take the, the actual model, like the raw model. Typically, those different, even if they use different programs, they can convert and like get imported
I mean,
in.
that's the simplest way to be more specific. The subcontractor to my contractor that did the drawings
Yeah,
does these for solar arrays. He's got all that iconology in his system already. So he doesn't have to go build a solar array. He's already got it. And
yeah.
it may be difficult to just translate that as a file and have somebody mess with it and all of a sudden.
If they have the same program, they might be able to do that, but I think we're gonna get into the weeds on that, but
I think so.
but I do think that's a really great thing to offer, because any consultant coming in, if they can have something to start with, that saves them a lot of
It
time.
might be interesting to know if the group of DHM that did the athletic park, did they actually do their own drawings? Or did they
Yes.
subcontract that
Yeah,
out?
that's.
No, they do.
So they have their own.
The other thing that occurs to me is that we're gonna have an audience with the consultant
Right, so
on this, and part and parcel of that presentation is gonna include not just our laundry list,
Right.
but your drawings.
Right.
Organically, it's gonna come up in conversation and be like, where does this fit in practically?
Can you use this?
Litigiously, do we have to
Yeah, can we?
convey that, share it? How does that work? And
My
then
goal
we
for being
negotiate.
that was
Yeah.
to save money. We don't want
Yeah.
to spend
Oh, yeah.
another 10 grand reducing something that's already been built.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure that they would love to have access to your file, and usually under the contract you have with your consultant, typically it says something like anything related to this, all project files you have a right to, so you just have to ask for it. Most of the time, they just don't want to.
So my near-term ask of you guys
Mhm.
is, should I go, and I talked to Wiley, my boss, my consulting boss now, should I spend some of the remaining money to go ahead and add John's suggestions of putting more trees in front and putting the background landscape in?
I
My
think
response,
no.
my original response was I purposely left it thin so it could be added to, so that it's to create buy-in. But John's response in 2 emails was, I don't think it's gonna sell well unless it looks like, you're not just featuring solar.
They're not gonna use yours though, so you shouldn't spend additional funds, because the consultant that they hire are going to create their own conceptual drawings, and they're gonna integrate everyone else's ideas in.
Exactly.
And so I just don't think, like, you have this great grant money and you have a lot you wanna do with it, and like, it's best if we leave it to the consultant
Let me
and
read this one statement.
No, seriously, though, she's exactly right, because what's gonna happen is they're gonna take what the SAB has, they're gonna take what the APRA has, they're gonna take what all these other stakeholders have, and they're gonna try to make it into one draft,
Right now.
version 1,
Yeah.
and then it goes from there.
I would say that come that time, when the consultant is chosen, you and SMPA have a very clear understanding of what your contractual agreement is with your subcontractors, to know from your subcontractors what they think in terms of intellectual property and how it can be shared and integrated into this process.
Or whatever.
And then having that bullet point, that's just a legal protocol, just to figure out what we can share and can't share. And I think would behoove you to have that and distill down with as clear as can be, with the explanation that this is just completely focused on the engineering, the best system possible. And then this is the ideal selection to be integrated into the greater master plan.
Although if you go to the laundry list that's above this, the laundry list of things that could be incorporated. You start, it shows the microgrid, it shows pollinating plants, it shows evergreens, it shows the sustainability center, it shows landscaping, it shows the perimeter trail, it shows the circuit trail, it shows the pavilion, it shows the electric chargers, and it has kiosks. So every element that's on that list is already in those drawings, but to a thin degree. So that it's only been barely illustrated in those things. I can show you where those all are.
And
But
make
that's
sure
what
that
the-
that's clear in the legend, that those are
Yeah.
placeholders.
Yeah.
And that the engineering design is designed to be complementary to all of these other values that are gonna be articulated.
That was my goal, was to try to immediately blend the elements of the old plan into the solar grid design.
But just be aware that the solar grids are really what you're focusing on. The landscaping, the other stuff really is gonna be more of a collaboration.
Yeah, that's.
So
that's-
that before
that's why
we
it's-
leave today, can we finalize the next meeting date and then?
It is the
make
March 18th.
Okay, it's
It has
March
to be,
18th,
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And then we'll just make sure that we block out time.
But the one thing
Yes,
I've
just
discussed
that,
with
not
Preston at length is to be clear that if it were not for the solar and for this microgrid grant, we wouldn't be doing this at all. Because that plan would be sitting in an unknown location in a folder somewhere. It's on our 10-year capital improvements plan with no.
And I think that's the fact that he's put in here about the solar
Right,
grid.
right.
And the fact that the town will be meeting with the consultants before any of the stakeholders. That will be expressed. And the fact that the council has put money aside for this in their 2024 budget. I think it's pretty clear.
I've already been asked, and I can't remember by who. It's like, well, how small can we shrink down the solar? It's like, how much can this overtake the
Right,
solar? But
so.
the solar is the anchor to all this. That's the reason it exists, this new plan. So it can be modified, it can be
Right,
altered, but it can
right.
be eliminated because that's the whole
Right.
reason for it.
And I think that that's the conversation you have with Preston, especially for your grant, is what is his comfort level of you moving forward?
And the same's true with this, you know, the visual impact and everybody's concern. I mean, this statement that Dave put in his email says, I think current mock-ups, my drawings of the site showing the solar panels are interesting, but could be inflammatory to some. I would recommend against them outside our small group, as they show pretty high panels, very small plants and pretty stark. Guys, there's gonna be a solar plant there, so yeah, we can do what we can to mask it. But beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I was joking with JT this morning. If you look at the community garden, it kind of looks like a Civil War encampment. You know, so what is more attractive? So it's very relative. So anyway, I think the result of the master plan will do its best to meet the needs of all of these concerns, and that's the reasons for its existence.
Right.
And the drawings will act as a partially painted canvas. That was the term.
Right, and I think we as a board, it'll go a long way if we make sure that we are actually at the physical public meetings, and that way we can put positive support towards the solar, just like all the pickleball people came out.
Right, and also, the fact that there's a lot of support for solar, it showed up in the athletic park master plan process. It wasn't a no, we don't want solar, it was no, we don't want solar in the athletic park.
Mhm.
Well, and if
So-
that could translate out, but we'd also don't want it in the Green Street Park just because it's a.
Yeah,
park.
but I think there's more buy-in
Yeah.
Hopefully.
with the town, more buy-in with, so
Well, there
That's
is
just my-
for the people that were looking at the athletic park, but those aren't the people that live in the
Yeah.
park.
Yeah,
So-
but the town's
Yeah.
buying on
Yeah.
this, so.
yeah.
And by the way, just FYI, if it doesn't work out that solar's in this park, I throw in the towel. There's no other place, town-owned property where this is gonna play out.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to forego the desire of the town to be included in this microgrid.
JT is gonna throw a party and it's gonna be a Green Street party. We're gonna promote it. He's really good at throwing social events, so.
Make sure we build in, adequate
Yeah,
PA system,
Yeah.
electricity, and we
Yeah.
could put solar.
I haven't given you my laundry
On the
list yet.
gazebo.
Okay,
Here, I want to ask you a really important question at this juncture. Because there's another big contingency in this. We had talked about this before, which is Dana Ivor's property. Knowing that that is a juggernaut unto itself on the county property and all the impact statements and the variances that need to be. And I asked you this before, but for the record, if Dana's gets doused by residents, by stakeholders, does the Green Street turf have enough space to accommodate a viable microgrid project?
It's a good question. And I'm gonna get a little technically wonky here. When I originally envisioned the system, it was Dana's big chunk of array and a smaller piece literally right next to it.
Mhm.
And the two are gonna be tied together on what they call the DC bus, on the DC side of the system, the battery side. since the piece over here in that park got nixed, I was forced to relocate it over Green Street. In so doing, we changed the entire design of the system such that the connection of the solar arrays to the battery are not on the DC side anymore, they're on the AC side. Which also means that I can relocate the battery from over on Dana's property to S&P yard. So now I can have disparate solar systems all over town that feed the microgrid. The other epiphany that came out of that is every residential solar system, including the one on the fire department, will connect to the microgrid during an outage.
Okay,
And all of that excess solar that's not being used by that facility will offset the load or recharge the battery bank. So to your point, my original design concept was to design a 4-hour battery, then design a solar array, whether it's in 3 pieces or 1 spot, that provides the necessary charge on a daily basis to recharge a battery when we're totally depleted. Then I decided to double the size of the battery bank and push the solar in at night. Turns out Tri-State's not going to allow it. So I'm having to relook at the whole design concept, which means it's no longer absolutely critical that the size of the solar array or any solar array play into the microgrid. It may end up being that I just put in a big battery bank and whatever solar we can add to it just extends the outage by that much, doesn't fully recharge it the next day. It's just whatever solar we can do will help.
right.
Rather than it's necessary for it to operate.
And then use the aggregate of whatever would be allotted, agreed upon in Green Street, supplemented by the grid tie from private stakeholders.
And that's already built into the calculus in that the load currently that I'm based on already has that solar built into it. So it's the net of the solar.
Okay.
It's just that solar becomes material during an outage, because normally during an outage, grid tied solar systems by law have to disconnect to prevent backfeed on the grid for lineman's safety. But when the battery it's called a grid forming battery, when it immediately within microseconds picks up the outage, the solar systems will disconnect immediately. And then they go through a 5-minute sampling period where they look for the grid. And because the grid is now formed by the battery, they don't know the difference. And they'll reconnect to the grid that's now formed by the battery as if it were the normal grid. The cool thing about that is that the people that have net metered solar like me and you, during a normal outage, your system goes dead, you can't use it. Now you've got the battery backing that up. As soon as it reconnects, you're going to continue to sell your excess solar to SMPA, even though we have an outage where you couldn't before. So you're going to monetize your solar in a way you couldn't before. And you are going to become an actual individual participant in a microgrid. You're now going to be extending the capacity of the battery by using your excess solar to supplement. During a normal outage, all solar is dead.
Got it. And to that point, I hope that you can come up with a really elegant way to explain that.
That's a little tough to.
Very elegant, very short, and very, for people who don't have a clue about solar.
Yeah, you're gonna have to take your speech and then pretend like you're explaining it to first graders.
I'm used to 30 years,
Seriously.
that's really dumbing it down.
Yeah. But I do think we should move, just because we have a lot of agenda items, and I think that we're gonna spend most of the next session talking about it.
Yeah.
If we can at least check off item 2, and then Terry, your item 3.
What was that?
I just got an update on the space to create.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then I just wanna save some time to make sure that we kind of discuss a path forward for this net zero stuff.
Yep.
So what's item 3?
So, yeah.
Update on
So
So I
go-
think-
Great.
Do we have any more notes that I need to pass on to Preston regarding the RFP? So hang on a second.
To be released tomorrow.
She just sent me I have to sign up. I've been Terry's mock-up and agree with all the master planning process and other things that the process of. I can arrange to meet with the apiary whenever you all want, but project has full support and everyone has. I also prefer one of the logos does not have the border. But will defer to group preference. Sorry, I can't continue. Reception's poor.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, did I read that way too fast? Is
there any key points that we really need? to-
Yeah, I have seen Terry's mock-up and agree with all the master planning process and us all being present for the process with the community.
Great.
And then the logo thing, she said, I can't arrange a meeting with the apiary whenever you all want, but this project has full support and everyone is supposed to keep quiet.
Okay. All right. Sounds
So-
good. Sounds like she's on
Sounds
board to
like-
chat about it on
yeah.
the 18th.
So I will give Preston the two suggestions and let him make a decision whether he wants to add that on or not. And, okay, so. then-
And we're our logo winners. Who got the most votes?
I got no responses other than from you and from Dave.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I got a clear response in my notes. But I didn't send it to
JT,
you.
you didn't
So-
vote?
Preston and I chimed in, but, I'm not gonna say what we chimed in until you guys vote on what you want.
Okay.
So we have 9 options here. Dave said he says he likes them all. He does like the word sustainability in, normal font instead of the, cursive, which
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree as well.
I
Those were the
don't
ones
like
I
the
voted for.
sustainability when it's in regular font, it's way more noticeable.
My vote is option 4A, but with block letters.
Okay, so actually, that's what I chose. I like the 4A myself. That's 4A, but with block letters here.
Mhm.
And the only, my reason I liked is because I like the mountains and it's not like anybody else's logo. Nobody else has, none of our other logos, like the town logo, it has this on it.
No, I like the negative space on that.
So
Right
that
there.
was, and that was also Preston's, but,
I have a
again,
quick question. Does any other board or committee have their own logo?
Yes.
A need for them? If they do.
yeah, well, we have the, chamber has a logo.
Mhm.
We
They're not
do
a-
not have a logo, or no other committee has a logo, but the chamber, Ridgway
They're
Chamber.
separate from a town committee.
But it has the same logo, it's still using the same,
Family.
branding.
Brandon.
No, I understand that. I'm just wondering if is there even a need for this advisory board to have a logo?
This was something
That's
that we,
your
something,
mistake.
yeah.
Stand down.
That ship is.
Yeah, I
sailed,
was like, that's
So
already,
let's
it's already
not- let's
happened.
not- Yeah.
We're on the voting phase,
So,
Carrie.
so I've got one for 4A, with the block letters. And then, you said that you liked 3A, 1A, and 2A, is that right? Angela? Let me go to it. 1, 2, 3. So that's 3, that's no border around it. Is that
Yeah, I think
correct?
we just well, we need to get votes from Dana, Ken, and Angela.
Angela did not say anything about, she just said she, let's see, what did I just read? About the logo. Okay, I also prefer one of the logos that does not have the border at all, but will defer to the group's preference. So,
So hers is either one of those.
Yeah.
The ones without the borders. So we just need to hear from Dana and Ken.
Dana, Ken doesn't have any opinion.
Yeah, I don't have a huge preference either, so I'm just happy that we get a cool logo.
So, Dave said he'll go with whatever we want to do as long as it's the bold.
So
Or
can
the,
we just go with the 4A and then see what it looks like with block letters
Yeah.
and do that
And then,
and present that at our next
sure,
meeting, and then we can all give a thumbs up.
okay, that's what we're gonna do.
Look, we're moving on.
4A, block letters. Okay. Next meeting.
Because I think it looks good.
I think the next meeting is gonna be mostly again for this, master plan.
Okay.
This will be the majority of the time. I don't want to put a whole lot on there, but this shouldn't take too long.
Yeah, hopefully it's just presenting it and
Yeah.
everyone gives it a thumbs up.
Okay.
I just wanted to give Ken and Dana a chance to
yeah.
speak up before we adopt it.
And I did talk with Dana about this. So I actually called Dana and I explained to her before I sent this out that I just did not have time to take her logo and create a whole new design, find somebody to do it. And that I just opted to go with this, something we already had the information.
Yeah.
And a logo.
I think they look great.
Okay.
Terry, update on the Space to Create microgrid and resilience hub project.
So background and then the update. Background is that when the Space to Create building was being envisioned and designed, SMPA worked with the artsmiths to encourage them to go all electric, encourage them to go EV ready and PV ready. And so then, before they finished building it and worked with the contractor Stryker, they actually pre-installed conduit from the utility room with Space to Create to the roof so that putting solar on the roof would be a piece of cake.
Mhm.
Had them separate the load center, the load panel, the circuit breaker panel for the community center away from the rest of the building. So, because I saw this microgrid grant funding coming, so we saw the writing on the wall. You know, SMPA paid me to go ahead and write the grant for that, and we won the grant. So the grant is for $46,900. The estimated cost for the microgrid, which includes a 5 kilowatt solar system that will be on the front lip of the roof. So as you're driving down 62 and you probably see the air source heat pumps,
Mhm.
there'll be a row of solar panels that will block the view of your air source heat pumps. Just a single row of single panels. And there'll be a battery bank down in the utility room, which is a 34 kilowatt hour battery bank, which was designed to provide almost half a day's backup power to the existing measured load in the Decker room. And the biggest, and I was wondering why the load was so high. I went over there. It's the only spot in the whole building that has electric baseboard heaters. Everything else is air source heat pump. So a lot of electricity uses because of janky electric baseboard heaters.
Mm.
That's the bad news. The good news is it's a concrete floor, which is a huge thermal mass. So during an outage, we can extend the amount of outage time by turning the thermostat down, especially if there's human bodies in there, and allowing the thermal mass to take, keep it warm without having to use heat. So then the concept that I wrote into the grant was to define the Decker room to be transitioned into what they call a resilience hub, which is a long fancy term for an emergency shelter.
Mhm.
So in order to do that, I added a $7,000 budget into the $70,000 budget to buy charging stations, like the kind you see at airports that have multiple plugs and outlets. And I've talked to Tara about this. So two things. One, we won the grant. I'm waiting for the contract to be signed. The money is a pass through from SMPA directly to the town, not taking any cut out of it. The SMPA's contribution was my time to write it, and then they're going to be paying me to help project manage the grant through its same process that I'm going through these other grants. So it'd be a 6 months or an 8 month process. And then, we do monthly reports on the progress, and we do invoices and so forth. But the $7,000 out of the 70, and town can spend more or less on that, but they'll get the their share, 2/3 of that back in that 46,000. And something I see the SAB helping Fuse or helping Terra with is how do we take sustainability features or ideas to turn that into a resilience hub? Make that something the SAB might want to participate with, rather than just throwing it over the wall to Terra to go do.
Mhm.
And you guys come up with, what would an emergency shelter or resilience hub need to make it more attractive to the building occupants as well as the town in general? So the idea would be during an outage,
Mhm.
that community Decker room is going to remain powered through a battery solar system. And that could be a gathering place for, the marshal or, communication center for talking about, the nature of the outage, and it's an extended outage, and, all the things that usually happen during an emergency or a shelter kind of thing. So I haven't fleshed it out any more than that, and I thought I'd throw that into the SAB to see if you wanted to participate in helping to conform that room with the budget from the town into a resilience hub. So that's kind of an ask to you guys to see if you want to get involved. You don't have to. I mean, the town could do it. Preston could work with Tara and just go do it. Or if you guys see that, there's some sustainability link to that, you might want to get involved.
Should we just want to get
I
that
think-
as an item on the agenda?
I
for
think
next-
that's a question for, not a question, but just to, bring that up. I'm going to bring that up to Preston.
The chosen contractor, we're going to try to probably hardwire it to Alternative Power Enterprises. They're the one that did the design work and came up with the budget.
Project.
I told Preston I would work on behalf of the town to hold his feet to the fire and sharpen the pencil and get the best deal
Mhm.
and see what, if we can get it for less than what's, the budget allowed, because anything we can get less, the more there is grant money to pay for it.
What are we looking at timing on this?
I'm waiting for the contract from DOLA to sign, for SMPA to sign it, and then I can give Preston the okay to go ahead and buy it. Meanwhile,
So-
the town council did budget the full 70,000.
Okay.
So here's the fun part about it. So the 46.9 is 2/3 of that 70. The remaining third, which is 23,000, is eligible for a federal 30% buy down. So if we got additional 30% off of the balance, the net cost to the town would be 16,000 for a $70,000 system. So it's a huge discount.
So,
We spent all 7,000 on the zone stuff.
Okay.
I'm gonna just pencil in for the 18th. It shouldn't be a lengthy discussion, I would not think.
But on that note, you were gonna ask Preston whether it's even, should it even be presented to the SAB or whether he just wants to allocate it to.
Right,
to
how,
staff to get-
how he wants to deal with that. And if he, just to throw that out at him, because he already may have thoughts on that.
And I spoke with Tara even before I wrote the grant saying,
And I know she doesn't have that.
Yeah.
She doesn't have time to do that. She
no, but she knows that
Yeah.
there's gonna, there will be some equipment, some tables purchased to turn that into a resilience hub.
Right,
And they could be rollaway charging
Right.
stations.
Yeah.
right.
So
So I will ask them that question and if he's, the thumbs up for the board to participate or to.
And then what are you thinking for, so you're waiting for the contract from DOLA, but like, if you say you get it in the next week or two, when would you want to have ideas kind of?
Well, the first thing that has to happen is to go ahead and procure the solar battery system.
Mhm.
That $7,000 budget doesn't have to be spent or managed until near the end. Is that,
So are we looking like a month, 2 months? We looking 3 months? We looking, what are we
Yeah,
looking at?
3 months, but in order to take that, whatever is the remaining balance, the 7,000 plus whatever else the town wants to spend on converting the room into something that makes it workable as a resilience hub or an emergency shelter. The power system is independent of that part of it. So the actual microgrid is a separate purchase, but out of the 70, I put in an extra 10% roughly to help buy, multiple outlet
So
charging stations.
I guess the question is that if Preston is like, is saying, yeah, SAB, if you want to do this, does the SAB want to do it? And is the timing too soon with other things that they want to accomplish?
Yeah, I think that will be just at the end of the next meeting. So
Okay,
if
I'm gonna put
Preston
it on-
says yes, then
I'm guessing.
yeah, then we'll see. We'll just have the
Okay.
team vote.
I'll put
And
that on the
then-
March agenda as
Yeah.
a quick item.
For example, it might include flat screen TVs, so you can watch the news to see what's going on with the
Yeah,
outages. And
Yeah, there's all sorts of,
picture people gathering in that space, which is a warm, heated space that will have power, so they can bring their laptops and their iPads and charge it up. Commune and figure out what the status of the outages
How
are.
many people are gonna be able to fit in there? It's gonna fill
yeah.
up
and
fast.
It's
It's got a
also, I mean,
limitation.
there's a lot of like, interest in that space, so it may be something that the, Fuse might want to
Fuse.
take over, you know?
Mhm.
So that's,
Keep it consistent. with
yeah,
whatever
as a
they're- And whether-
project for them.
Whether the
Yeah.
charging stations are permanent or they're roll away or that kind of.
That's
Right.
true.
I think it would
Yeah.
be great to know if what other comps are out there,
Mhm.
Yeah,
what other places have been, what other been integrated into it.
yeah,
Like a muster center for, like if there was a BLM has to speak on behalf of a wildland fire or something like that.
And then making it known to the community that it exists.
Mhm.
Now there's a gathering spot that's got power during the outage.
I'm only gonna tell the people that I'm close to. There's a limited
So,
space.
yeah. What we really
Only
need-
so many of us
we
can
need
charge
an
and watch
outreach
TV.
center to be that.
Right?
That
Yeah, there's a
location.
fire limit, just like there's to this room, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I mean,
Okay.
it's gonna get
Okay.
statewide and eventually national attention.
So that would be really cool. Yeah, sounds like a great place to just hang out.
Get it on, and the proof's in the pudding, and get it on the radar for KVNF and Poto and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm working right now to draft a press release. It's gonna be SMPA/Town of Ridgway joint press release, once I have the contract in place
Oh.
to discuss it. So it'll get some press that way too.
Great.
Along those lines and separate from it, I wrote the grant for a similar system to power the communications at SMPA's office. I'm waiting to get, that was actually a different fund. It was a federal fund. That's $125,000 system. And I applied for 86,000 in grant support.
Wow.
But that would back up SMPA's IT systems, the phone systems and the radios, because we had an outage a few years ago during a holiday where the power went out at SMPA, the generator, the 350 kilowatt generator fired up, blew its own fuse, never powered the building. So nobody could call the outage in. They couldn't get any status. We couldn't post anything on Facebook. We couldn't take phone calls. The linemen couldn't radio each other. I mean, it would be totally embarrassing for the utility not have power, even though we had a backup generator. So this is a redundant system to the generator. So it backs up the generator, in this case, but just to that equipment. So I isolated all the circuits for the communications equipment into a single panel, and that's what's going to be backed up by the battery, not the whole building, just the communications.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah. Egg on the face of the utility, can't even report an outage.
Yeah.
Thanks for all you do, Terry.
Yeah. Powers
Didn't take much to convince the board to allow me to write that grant.
Cool. Well, item 4 is discussion regarding establishing goal for net zero carbon emissions. So Deb pulled up the draft. And then she also sent us several other, I guess, resolutions from other entities. I don't know. I mean, there's only a handful of us, so I don't think we're going to vote on anything tonight, but it would be good to get some initial feedback from many of you, and then also just some, I guess it would be good to discuss also at some point, because we had big ambitions of creating a roadmap and kind of pathways on how we would get us closer to net zero and what pieces our board would play in that. So I think it would be helpful for us to have an idea of what that looks like as well. And maybe that's something that we're going to talk about if we can't vote on this draft agenda.
Yeah, I and personally have talked about this several times, that this is going to be, you know, several discussions to get whatever resolution that draft together that you guys are good with, and that really shows what or expresses what we want to do at the town. This draft was he pulled from the same information that I sent to you. I provided to him, and that's what he pulled off of to get this draft together. So it was just kind of this is what his thoughts were, but really wants the board's input on you know, more or less, or get rid of this and put this in, and to really meet what you think would be the town's direction to go net zero emission.
Yeah.
So my reading of this is it only applies to housing projects that the town financially supports, not just general new construction. It's pretty limited.
Right.
It's almost so limited as I don't think there are any new projects on the horizon that are housing projects that the town are going to financially support. So it's almost pissing in the wind. I mean, maybe someday there was going to be another space to create or another Letterhorn, but right now there's no plans for that. So this doesn't have much teeth in it.
Yeah, I mean,
So
reason.
what, yeah, so.
I wanted it to apply to all residential and all commercial.
All new construction, yeah.
So then, okay,
Broaden the scope, essentially.
So I think what would be really helpful for me is just to kind of get all our ideas in one place is, I mean, let's have that's kind of the initial discussion, but I think we should all take, like, as homework, we're reading this, to review the items, that Deb provided, and for us to come in next week with markups of what we want to see in this draft and what we want to change. So we can kind of discuss that. That way it's at least a little kind of thought out, when we come in, and then that way we can figure out, okay, we're all in agreement, we want it to be new construction, maybe probably like substantial remodels, to kind of, for existing housing and.
So, and when you do this, it would be, new construction.
Mhm.
And then whatever the next thing is, and then whatever the next thing is. So if you read this, it's like, we want to put more than just new construction. You really want to, what does that consist of? Does it, all new construction has to be what and by what time period?
This should be inherently embedded into the master plan, strategic plan, and town code.
In the codes.
Yeah.
I mean, this really doesn't even require net zero. It just says no all electric. That's not net zero. It's just one step towards net zero. So it's pretty toothless.
My question for today was gonna be, would it be all right if I shared this draft in its iteration even before we start doing input to the folks at Mountain Town 2030 who've offered to help us in this process? Who's helping?
Absolutely. He
Other-
sent their resolution. Did I not share that with you guys?
The Mountain Town 2030?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've
I
got,
mean, the director of Mount Town 20.
yeah, Chris Stenkamp.
Yeah, he sent me his from his town.
Well, and I've gotten that because I've
Yeah.
been participating. in
No,
there.
totally.
And
You guys wanted,
I didn't want to unilaterally step outside of my bounds and just. send it.
no, I think,
Because
you
they
know,
offered to
because they
help
know what they're
draft
doing,
this.
they know how to put these things together, and then let them, if they're willing to do that, absolutely,
Yeah.
why
They've
not?
offered, they've offered to even drive down here and help us.
And, yeah,
So a little bit of background, some discussions that I think some iteration of this has been had, or at least working with Dave and maybe Kim as she's working to promote some of these code changes that are broader, was the difference, net zero literally means that the house produces as much energy as it uses and or finds a way to offset it,
right,
like with the San Miguel Power process. All electric is a step towards that because by definition, it means you're not using any fossil fuels. All EV ready is just requiring that the new construction have
probably,
a circuit ready for EV chargers. PV ready, it's like what I did at Space Create, means you've got a conduit that goes to the roof, it's ready to have PV. That's an interim step to net zero, but doesn't actually get you to net zero. So there's the debate that Dave and I have had for at least 2 years is, do we just take this little tiny increment step of all electric, EV ready, PV ready? Is that step one towards the goal of no, at some point, you have to be net zero, meaning that you actually have to have, a solar system or participate. So that's a fundamental question on how do you get to net zero?
Yeah.
The first step is all electric, clearly, right? But we're not even, so the code might require all electric. EV ready and PV ready isn't getting to net zero. It's just lipstick. At what point does the town say all new construction, commercial and or residential has to be all electric, has to be net zero? So you have to create a goalpost.
yeah, you have to create a timeframe.
Yeah, and
On
which
when,
these interim
yeah.
steps then lead to.
Mhm.
And so that the interim steps are preparing builders and people who want to build to know that their future house is going to have these requirements that they meet.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean that they have to have solar on site. They could, participate in the community solar garden that we're going to build, or they can participate in SMPA's program in order to achieve that result.
Mhm.
There are examples of this that Mountain Village have done, that Telluride has done. They have these programs where they're requiring that, or they have to pay a fine. And the fee that it goes into a pool that promotes more sustainability. So there's ways to achieve that, none of which is described here. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's
And that stuff has to have enough teeth, and otherwise, like the timelines that are in this are kicking the can down the road a little bit too far for my flavor. And even like in San Miguel County, where I'm going through the building permit process right now for designing on my land up there, I saw how quickly the county, San Miguel changed even for building code. For now, all windows have to be all tempered. Can't be a very, very small amount of exterior, can be wood. For purposes of fire in different zones. And they fast tracked that and made it so. And got it done quickly. And I feel like this town has more than enough capacity to accelerate this process.
So,
go
sorry,
ahead.
so what are your thoughts with the process, like the steps for getting Mountain Town 2030 involved? Like, would it make more sense for us to make markups on this draft and include all the things that we want to see and then have them review and find a way to integrate that all in? Or do they take the first stab, we then edit it and make it work? You know, what's,
I think even just based upon nascent discussion just now about the things that we're not fans of on this iteration, I have no problem just taking this and sending it to Chris and go, we have discussed
yeah,
things that we think are,
I have to agree,
and rather than like,
because this is something they deal with all the time. It could take us months and months and months for us to get something together that they
As-
could put together pretty quickly.
to the point being is that as is, I can send it this evening to Chris and be like,
Yeah.
hey, Chris, can you give this a read through with some recommendations, and know that we've already discussed that we've seen the shortcomings of it.
yeah.
And where would you take this? How would you advise us? And he's offered that numerous times.
And, you know, you know, we start with that and then we just, you know, we tweak it. And we take however long to tweak it before we, you know, before you guys submit it to council for review, and then tweak it after whatever council. Because it's gonna be up to council to review it and say, nah, this is or isn't gonna work for us.
It's not just helping us, it's helping
Exactly.
the other community that we're
And to
already
your
part of.
point, to what we've discussed multiple times before, maybe one of the therefores is that we establish the need for a timeline, right?
Well, there has to be a timeline.
Yeah, I mean, that we say
Yeah.
therefore the town will establish in the next 2 years a 10-year or a 15-year timeline
Yeah,
to get
sure.
to net zero. There has to be a
And-
runway.
Yeah.
to get there.
And that will be informed by,
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to get it to them, because already
I think that's a great.
the whole point of their effort is to make sure that nobody has to reinvent the wheel
Right.
on the roadmap
Yeah.
forward.
Mhm.
There's plenty of them
And
out there. They're just trying to take the best parts of all the different places and help customize to specific communities. And so as is, Deb, you didn't have that draft in Dropbox, did you?
No, I don't have, I didn't put it in Dropbox. I thought I sent it out, so, Chris sent me their net zero from the cat town. Is he in Montana? Where's he
No,
at?
no, he's in Park City.
Park City, yeah. Oh, it's in there, isn't
But
it?
but they've worked closely with Chris Dubuque, and, you know, there was
So,
some evidence.
anyway,
that they went too far,
he
too
provided
fast.
that.
I've been communicating with them pretty consistently through this whole
I thought
process.
I shared Park City. Did I not share Park City? Here, hang on a second. Let me just look at my shared here.
Send in my PDF.
I shared a bunch of them. I thought Park City was in there because that was, and that's the one that I stopped sharing, and let me go into this. Right here. Park City net zero resolution.
I only got. the
Yeah,
pic-
this was in the packet.
It was all of these ones, there were six
Yeah.
attachments and all what you sent. You didn't get all six?
It's a sample resolution that he
So I'm
provided.
gonna get part of it too.
Yeah.
You're in
So
there.
this was done, yeah.
Oh, it's not in the packet, the streets can get it.
It's not in the packet. It's what I sent over to you guys and said, these are the resolutions to review before our meeting.
Send it to your Ridgway.
So, I have all them right here. I can just shoot them all to you now if you want, or this one. Actually, I can't get on my email here.
I just forwarded it
Okay,
to Jake's cheese and I have all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, I might have just not. Do you mind taking the charge on that and reaching out?
oh, that's what I.
And then, would it be possible, well,
And I'll.
can you ask them if it's even possible to have that maybe ready by March 8th? No,
April.
okay, we don't want to talk about
I
it.
don't think we want to, I don't think we want to put that kind of a deadline on that, do you? I mean, that's,
I don't think we.
For
can
us
put it-
to
I think
review
it's
a
sent to
draft?
them.
see what he comes up with.
Chris typically emails me back with like within 24 hours on everything I've asked.
Okay, we'll see if he can. I
Yeah.
don't want to load the agenda too much.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I'll just.
I guess just ask him what he thinks his timeline on when we might
Yeah.
have a draft to review. And then
Yeah,
if it comes in early enough, then
No, and that's why I figured even in this current iteration.
Yeah.
Without having to like shine light on.
because I think that
Exactly.
could be a whole meeting discussion.
okay.
Yeah, and I think.
Going
they-
through each of the items on it, I think could be a full meeting.
And they've even offered to come help facilitate that process.
Right,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, then ideally, it would be great. He'll let us know when we have that, but it would still be, if we put it on the April agenda, it'd still be nice to have it before. So all of us can review it, edit
absolutely.
it, make
And
comments.
if it's into us in time and we have some
Yeah.
time, we can look at it on the 18th.
Yeah. Okay. And then you're gonna also get him to, you said something about a roadmap as well, that they have?
Yeah, that's all part of
Okay.
what they're helping all the communities with. And I already, I mean, they even have that initial letter, remember that I had authored.
Terry, did you?
And,
did you
and
may send
everybody
it to
signed
you?
that we sent off to
Yeah, please.
Preston.
Mhm.
They,
I'll have
And
to
my
have it.
bird time, I'll look at it.
you can share parts
Yeah,
of that
I'm not really
presentation
seeing
with
the
other communities.
timeline on there.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Because they were one of the first to do that, I guess.
Yeah,
So he's probably learned some things. after
yeah,
that, too.
and I'm sure that they've assisted other communities that we've learned quite a bit from since this was done in 2016,
Oh, yeah.
so,
Uh,
yeah.
that's why.
Okay.
I had never seen the other attachments under here. I'd only downloaded Pitkin.
Oh. Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so there are, yeah, I was gonna say, I sent like 6 of them, I think.
Yeah, it's just working on like 6 different platforms.
No,
right now.
no, worries, no worries,
And
no
not
worries,
knowing
no
where shit
worries,
is.
no worries. Yeah. Okay, so, good, that's a good start.
Yeah.
All right, and I'll follow up with you guys as soon as I know something back from Chris.
Okay,
Timeline and all
great.
of that.
Thank
I'll
you for
send
doing
this
that.
email.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've been doing that stuff behind the scenes and just gathering. what
Yeah.
Everybody else has been working on.
Yeah. And then what's been going on with the zebra board?
I think the zebra got run over by a bus.
What's the?
Did-
neighborhood?
Got eaten by a lion.
So there's a zero energy building in Ridgway area board. You didn't know about that?
It
No,
was a predecessor to this.
oh,
SAB, and it kind of faded away. And that's where all this discussion over, how far do we go and how
Yeah.
fast do we go and timelines? So we had a separate committee that was kind of, I think it was born out of a clean energy committee.
It was a sub of the clean energy,
And
yeah.
that's what kind of led, once SAB was formed, because Dave and I were on the zebra committee.
oh, I didn't know anything about this, oh,
Town, that's what prompted the formation of the.
okay,
It
okay,
Sort of died on a listless death.
did, okay.
And now we got Rebel.
Rebel, yeah.
Oh, yeah, what's
Who's
going
the
on with
Rebel?
Rebel?
What's another meeting coming up soon?
Thursday, week from tomorrow. Tomorrow's EV meeting with
The
Rebel
Rebel,
again.
the Rebel,
Rebel's coming up in a week.
group is, what does it stand for? Rural Energy Beneficial Electrification League was prompted by SMPA to bring in stakeholders from all of SMPA
Mhm.
to talk about these issues, energy issues that helped inform what we do as policy, we're not me anymore, but SMPA does as
gosh.
policy. Kind of a spin-off of the Sneffels Energy Board. So
Oh.
there's all these damn,
There's a lot of energy.
group of, highly
Okay.
motivated, well-spoken,
Yeah.
opinionated, pain in the ass people that get together a lot.
Is there anything going on in those that we need to be in consideration or work in conjunction?
And some of that will trickle into this
Uh-huh.
as something material happens. This is, Rebel is more of a sounding board for
Mhm.
things SMPA is considering and also to help educate those in the community that already are engaged in these issues.
Yeah,
To help spread the word.
And what Kim had just sent out was what I'm showing you right now, energy
Yeah.
code adoption, and I don't know if you'd seen this, come across your radar.
Yeah, she did.
Enforcement
send
grant
me
program.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
related to working regionally
Yeah.
on this and Snuffles Energy Board being able to be the body that helps facilitate this process and secure funds for it as well.
Mhm.
It's funny, I forgot about Zebra.
I had only gone to like 2 CEC meetings or something, and then like Dave tried to suck me into Zebra, and then I was on SAB, and then Kim sends me like, yeah, the rebel stuff, and I was like, I'm not actually that involved, I don't even know what's going on with all these boards, so.
Keep your head down.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then since we're kind of on the side anyway, I did tell Dave I wanted to put a plug in for his Colorado Draft Needs Assessment Report, which is focused on the recycling and packaging and kind of, I think, reducing single-use disposable packaging. But anyways, the state of Colorado is doing a draft needs assessment report and wants feedback on this report by the 19th. So if anyone has time, I'm sure positive feedback would be great for the state to receive to kind of make sure that they're feeling good about enforcing this.
We need to get the minutes. We got 2 sets of minutes that need to be approved also
Yeah.
on this agenda.
We're doing good on time.
Yeah.
All right, so we can move, yeah, we can do that now.
We have a motion to approve the minutes for the December 12th, 2023 meeting. Actually, we only have 2 people here. We can't do that.
Well,
So never mind.
I guess.
We'll have three
Three to do the next.
to do the next time. Okay.
Yeah.
Those-
I just have, my 2 updates were just about the meeting on the 18th, and then, the next council meeting, we'll be appointing the new SAB member to council. There were 4 applicants. And only 3 of them are actually going to be, attending the council meeting on the 14th to go through the interview process. One of the, gentlemen that applied, he was just kind of like, if you don't have anybody, I'll do it.
Oh.
So, anyway, the other 3 are very interested, and, they will be doing just like a 5-minute interview.
When's your council
Are
meeting?
you at liberty to?
Next Wednesday, we
are.
What's that?
Are you at liberty to say who they are here or not?
Sean Hart is one, Brian Patton, and Dave, lost his last name. David and Brian are from Ridgway, and, Sean is from Uray.
Okay.
Works for-
Eco Action.
Sean works for Eco Action?
Sean works for Eco Action.
And then who are Brian and
He used to be a
David?
school, and he was a school teacher in Ridgway High School.
Brian is he's on the school board. And David, I think
He's a science teacher? Brian's a science teacher? No. Sean used to be, and now
Sean used
he's
to be
at
the
Eco
building
Action.
inspector at the city of Uray. I worked with him years ago
Okay.
for a short period of time.
Sean to get grant money to put the 2 Eden chargers in at the
Yeah,
school.
nice.
That's good.
Yeah.
I
And
don't
then,
know if
sorry,
there's
who's
any-
Brian
any
and David?
conflict of interest in him being on Eco Action or not, so that'll be up to the, that'll be up to
He's
the
a
council.
part-time subcontractor.
Yeah.
Full-time.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes a difference.
Yeah, I don't know, and I know it on the SAB authority and procedures does say something about being from Ridgway,
Town
it's
line.
Preston over people who are outside of the town or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that actually was in the original thing,
Yeah, I don't know,
was something about being with him.
but ultimately they'll pick the right person.
Yeah.
So that happens on the 14th, and I think that's all I have. That's all I have.
Okay. I just had a question for the team on, I know it doesn't work for Deb in April, but in general, I asked Dave, are Wednesdays the only days that work for you, or Tuesdays? Like, it doesn't have to be the first Tuesday of the month, it could be the second, but like, do Tuesdays work? I have another project that's like an NSF grant, and we just have a lot of stuff going on, and I have late meetings, and we're also working with people in Hawaii. So the time zone is really weird, and so Wednesday will become quite challenging for me, and I'm willing to call in, but it's nice to be able to come in person. It just feels like we get more done, so I just don't know if that is.
Is that a temporary? Is that-
It's at least for the next 6 to 8 months.
So and that's a good point. I wanted to bring up that, that there's been some talk, and we've had in other meetings about changing, staggering the terms
Mhm.
and changing the number of years that the terms are for, and then adding new members. So I had a conversation with Preston about this, and he is, requesting that this board put together whatever changes they're considering, whether it be changing the date of the meetings, changing the number of board members, changing the terms, and put it all together in one recommendation and have actual board members attend a council meeting and ask council to make those changes for that the board is recommending that. So that's how, so I think that's a topic that needs to be looked at. Now, as of right now, all board members, their terms will be over in August. And, so whatever, any of these requests need to be done prior to that, obviously.
And mine will be done in April,
Your
my term.
term on council, yeah.
But that's what I was asking you at the beginning of this meeting, was then my role on SAB is tied to my role on council, and I won't be.
You won't be on SAB, so we'll need to
That's where
probably,
I'm trying to get clear.
but there won't be a position open at that time unless somebody leaves the SAB. There has to be an opening for somebody else to come on.
So then we'd have to have, so then Terry would become
Well,
the,
I don't know, council would have to appoint that. I don't know who would be, I'm guessing.
no, so JT is our primary town council liaison.
He's our
And
liaison, yeah.
It's officio.
So I'm just trying to get on the same page. So once his term limit ends, you're saying that because his spot is technically has to be a town council liaison, that there's not.
There's not because there's members and then there's the liaison.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's an opening when your position is over as council, then you can apply for that opening.
Mhm.
If there's not an opening, then you have to wait until there is an opening.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so would next in line, so Terry's the secondary, would he now become our, we
I
don't?
don't know.
Depends on
That council would have to
whether I choose do it or
appoint
whether-
that.
whether the
Okay,
Council chooses
Yeah,
to do that.
I'm kind of guessing so, but I don't know.
yeah, okay. I didn't realize that was also up for debate. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm technically an alternate
right.
to,
Mhm.
the liaison.
So-
So technically,
But
my
not voting.
position here ends in April
Right.
at SAB.
Well, you're no longer on the council, so you're no longer the liaison. But there's not an official opening at this, unless there's an opening.
So
Unless somebody
he
leaves.
couldn't put it, just because he's on part of council, can he put in an application and then excuse himself from the voting process?
I just need to know when I need to submit an application.
Right. Well, if there's an opening, you need to submit it.
Are these public meetings? I think they are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Which means you could attend.
you can attend any of them, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was asking if JT wanted to be a formal member, would he even be allowed to put in an application in this round, and you're saying, no,
Well, we
they've
don't
already.
have an opening, so there's, we've
No,
got,
to fill,
We got 3 people going in front of council next week.
right,
Do I need to pony up and jump in with them and?
yeah, that was the question,
well, you're still on council until April.
right, but he would.
Yeah.
Just trying to
He
figure out
would
all this.
excuse himself from.
Oh, I
voting,
don't
yeah.
know the answer to that question. I'm thinking probably not, because you can't be both.
Well, Terry just hit on
Okay.
something that I hadn't even considered.
Yeah.
before, So I'm not gonna even worry about it until after April.
Yeah,
And I won't even be here in April. I'm gone again.
Okay,
I leave at the end of March.
And-
till-
and there's
And I think
there's a good chance there's gonna be an opening. So,
but that's true that you can't just, anyone, it's open to the public, so yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God,
Love that term. You are an influencer.
better work on my figure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you just can't vote as an influencer.
yeah.
That's okay.
right,
Mhm.
All right. Cross that bridge as a-
Yeah.
because you're an influencer, right?
the
You can take
limitations are
Terry's
proposed.
spot, yeah.
I'm an influencer.
JG just has like all the SAB swag and just promotes it all the time.
Sure. I'll be the under the influence.
Under the influence of the.
Great, I love it.
Yeah.
That's something for the rebels.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Oh, and I think I said that this new appointee, whoever it is, their term is over when everyone else is over, because it's taking Vicky's place. They're not starting a new 2 years.
and so when do all of ours end
August,
of this year?
yes.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a 2-year spot.
That's why you didn't, I've been not paying attention. You didn't treat the staggered thing yet?
No, that's what I
No.
was saying.
Okay.
You weren't paying attention.
we have to put it all
I
together.
need to put it all together because it sounds like there's multiple things that this board wants to do. And so the board needs to determine what it is they exactly want to do and then present it to council.
Yeah.
And whatever that is.
Makes sense. Just like on council, there's 1-year terms and 2-year terms.
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought these terms were 3 years or something.
No, there actually isn't. Elected officials,
There's-
2-year terms, if you're appointed,
Yeah,
if somebody left, you end up, might have.
you might have, yeah, then you have a 1 year.
Like Russ, who's the
It's
mayor
all
of Pro
2
Tem, has never actually been elected.
Who has it?
Yeah.
Russ,
Yeah.
never actually gone through an election. He's been mayor pro tem twice.
But
Yeah.
like,
Oh my God.
for instance, when Polly and I were running.
Yeah.
At that time, based upon the votes, I ended up with a 2-year term. She ended up with a 1-year term.
Because she filled a vacancy.
She was filling a vacancy.
Yeah, she was filling a vacancy that already existed, so that's why she only had the one.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some.
But they're staggering, so there's 2 and then there's 2,
Right.
so
Okay.
that there's never all of them at the same time. Because then staff would have a freaking freak out because we have elections
Yeah.
all the time.
The whole then you get a whole batch of new people.
Do you remember what the terms, timeframes were on our, like, were they limited at any way?
As far as,
Like,
no,
are they
there's no
set
term
2
limits.
years?
There's no term limits on the,
Right.
is that what you're asking? You
Well,
can run,
no, are they
run,
set
run.
for 2 years or is it like,
2 years,
okay,
but everybody started at the same time.
right, but I just didn't know, so like, we'll have to discuss if,
If you want to stagger,
mhm,
then you might want to do,
or if we wanna change the lengths.
right?
That's all
That
that'll
was
be
all
discussed.
some of this discussion that we had the last meeting, and that's why it needs to be really clear, what exactly do you want?
Mhm.
What are you gonna ask council?
So somebody may have to step up for a 3-year term. in order to help.
Exactly, there may be 2 3-year terms, there may be 2
Mhm.
2-year terms, I don't
Okay.
know, you guys have to,
Right,
or we do, we do 1 year to stagger them, to get them staggered, the first
Mhm.
year is, I'm just saying, there's.
1 and
always-
2 years?
Yeah, 1 and 2 years.
Unless someone wants to volunteer for 3.
So that's, we
Okay.
can't have that discussion at council. It has to be prior. It has to be set what you guys all agree on.
Okay.
So we'll
Yeah.
do the calendar Jenga.
Yeah,
Figure out what-
exactly. So,
Okay,
yeah, we need to get that in the agenda at some point here soon.
yeah. Okay, probably not enough room in the next one to talk about that. Or do we want to squeeze that in? into March
I
as
mean,
well?
you know, if we want to do if we can get through the agenda items and, I mean, we
Just
can.
put it at
in
the
there.
end and if it fits.
Just put it in there,
Okay.
and see if we can, fit it in. I mean, we've got the Green Street. And the logo won't take 2 minutes, hopefully, and and we could do the, modification to the authority and procedures for the SAB,
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah?
yeah.
And depending on what, happens with the net zero,
I'll
We'll
fill everybody in the timeline on that.
we'll
figure out
figure
whatever
that out.
the agenda.
so the agenda doesn't have to go, I don't have to have the agenda out till ready until the week before, so we got some time. I'm gonna put changes to the SAB.
What are the other, like, planning commission and all that? Are they all 2 years? What are the other?
Planning commission is 3 or 5 or something.
Oh, it's not 5, might be 3.
3 it's longer than 2, I think.
I would think that we would want to do like 2 and 3, because 1 year will go by really fast, and then I think town will be advertising for a position all the time.
Keep some institutional knowledge in the committees.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree, I think 1 year is just, it's
too-
like you get your feet wet. in
Yeah.
1 year. And year 2 is kind of like, you're up to your knees.
Mhm.
3 years.
Actually, I had actually mentioned it to John as he was going into the youth council.
Yeah,
That maybe there should be a youth council liaison to the SAB.
we've talked about
We've
that.
talked about that.
Yeah, and it's like, I talked to Preston about it, and, he was going to see if it, this is what his response was. He was gonna see if he could get someone from that council to do that. And he said, he can barely get them to come into the meeting.
that's-
They're kids and they don't want it.
Yeah, I believe
It
that.
was like pulling teeth. to
It was
try to
hard
find-
just to get a youth
Well,
advisory.
yeah, well, the
council.
last council that we had, it was several years ago. We couldn't find another one the next year. They
Yeah.
just didn't want to do it. So
Squeezed it
we
somehow.
got,
Treats.
I know. But yes, that was something that, you know,
Snacks at the meeting.
that was brought up, and yeah. And I actually know a couple of those
Underage
kids this
drinking.
year, so I might check with them. That's right.
Rangers. Right, that's
It's
a
just
good way.
their schedules are like crazy. I mean, those kids have more schedules,
Yeah.
tighter schedules and.
And I do think, yeah, I'm just trying to think, yeah, 2-year and 3-year term limits, I think makes sense. And I just remembered that in Telluride, I think their ecology commission had certain seats that were 2 years and certain ones that were 3 years for them.
I do want to just express my concerns or my kind of I don't think it's really a good idea to have a large group of board members. I know Dave suggested 2 additional board members a year. I think that might be something that we really need to consider, the problems that can cause when you guys discuss that.
Yeah, I agree. I think
The
that,
pollution factor.
well, I think for getting everyone to vote and be on the same page is really important. It's challenging enough with our group as is, and like you said, it is open to the public. So anyone that's interested should come. And then, I mean, again, I was only briefly like in and out of the ecology commission, and that's just because my boss was running it, so I helped step in here and there, but essentially anyone that was interested in ecology commission would come. And that was kind of their segue of if they wanted to be a voting member, they participated, they came to meetings, they helped out at like if we have EV ride events and things like that, they got involved. And so then when a seat does open, people can actually speak for them and say, we as SAB feel JT would be a strong asset and we would like to see him take the seat. So it wasn't a full like town council made the whole decision, if someone like
Yeah.
we as SAB could present at the town council and say, we would really like to see this person, we would really support. And council would come take that into consideration.
Absolutely. And you know, you guys can do whatever, I mean, ask for whatever you want. I mean, and one thing would be, you know, what are we at, 7 now with a council liaison? We're at 7. It says, 7 which includes the council liaison, I believe, so that's 6 board members. I'm pretty sure that's how it reads.
You mentioned that these are public meetings. Are they only noticed on paper on the boards out here?
No, they're on, they're actually, we have them on our town website. Do we post them on virtual response? I don't
Wonder-
think we
wonder
put them on virtual response.
Now, once you have your chosen logo, maybe you roll out a few Facebook
Mhm.
announcements that
Sure,
the SAB exists, here's the new logo. By the way, we meet these days and the
Yeah.
next meeting, these are gonna be the topics we discuss
Yeah.
and maybe
Mhm.
generate some public
Yeah,
interest, maybe have a regular monthly Facebook post about it.
yeah.
Who does that? Is that you too? Thanks,
there
Terry.
was one
Yeah.
more thing, right?
Yeah.
Just one more thing. What I was gonna say that I couldn't get out of my mouth
Mhm.
was, that, if you want to increase that to one more, board member, you
Mhm.
can do that.
Yeah.
If you want to ask for that additional board member in April.
Mhm. Okay.
Ticket.
Yeah,
Well, because, look,
Yeah.
half the meetings are half attended.
yeah,
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you got,
Yeah.
he's here all the time. most of the
Yeah.
time.
yeah,
So I'm just throwing some stuff out there. I
Yeah.
wouldn't go with 2 a month or 2 a year. I think that's a lot.
yeah, that's a lot. I think, adding 1 or 2 would seem reasonable, but adding 2 every year seems like a lot.
So I'm gonna put that on the agenda along with those other items. Let's see if we can, kind of hash through that.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think the staggering of the terms, the number of years and
Board member.
then, if you guys are wanting to change dates or whatever you want to do, we'll put all that together.
No, we don't, we can take dates off. That was just like making it easier so I could come in person, but that's unfair, so take that off.
Well, I mean, you guys can talk about that at the meeting.
Yeah,
Maybe it was for everybody, I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah. Are
Sweet.
we done?
I think we're done, guys.
Motion to adjourn.
So,
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what I say.
Where's your gavel?
do I hear that?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Okay. We'll do the meetings, the 3-minute meetings next time around. Hopefully we'll have
Great.
enough people here on March 18th. I know Angela will be here. Dana's gonna be here. The only one that I know for sure that's not gonna be here is Dave.
Okay.
And you said
be here.
you could be here. Okay,
Yeah,
So-
the next day is Jerry Roberts Memorial,
right,
so I'll be here for that.
yeah. So, I think we'll have a pretty good
Turnout,
turnout.
so we can talk and hash out all these things.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll follow up ASAP.
One,
I hear something back from Chris.
two. Yeah, I think Dana said yes. Ken, we're not sure about, but that's gonna give us at least 5. Yeah. All right,
Terry, I assume that you would be coming just
well, Green
since
Street,
you have the Green Street renderings and all that stuff, right?
I can just have to make sure, fit it in to my retired schedule.
yeah, it said you're always copied on everything that I send out. You're part of my group.
Yeah,
Email.
I get it. It's in a buried email, I have to look for it, but
Yeah.
And I'm the alternate, you're the mascot.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna call this meeting to adjourn at 6:42 PM on, March or February 7th, 2024. Thank you all. Good evening.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
this quote retirement